Record on this computer. Good. We're good to go. Okay, so let's learn about leprosy. I think we're getting deep into it as we're going to finishing up as we are continuing to learn about this spiritual ailment that if you gossiped or were haughty or so on, you can actually, as we have a number of cases in history where people actually broke out with leprosy. Last night we addressed some of the questions that were asked in yesterday's class about who got it and why it stopped, and we addressed some of those issues in yesterday's class. But today, back to the Chumash as we continue to study this week's parsha. Bara ha-koyin, and the koyin will look at this person whose clothes broke out in leprosy. Achri who chabeis as-hanega, he brought it to the koyin, and the koyin took the clothes and he stuck it in the washing machine. He wanted to see if it's going to last. Maybe the guy just got some ketchup. Right? I think it's like a bright red or a bright green. Maybe his kid was playing with a marker or something. And that's the sign. So he sticks the clothes, he washes it. He sticks it in the washing machine. Hanega, he washes it. And then the leprosy doesn't go away. Doesn't change. The green is still there. The red is still there. This is magical stuff. This is not a dirty clothes that's being given to the kohen. But the lesion, this taras, this leprosy thing, didn't change its appearance. So you put it in the wash, comes out before and after. You got a problem. Either the guy has a really strong magic marker, or it's serious an issue with it, and the Torah is going to deem that it is an issue. Tamihu, this clothes is tummy. The clothes is impure. The eish to serfenu, you should burn it in fire. This is a spreading lesion. This is taras. This is leprosy. It's not coming off. It's not getting lighter. And therefore, it is leprosy. However, if it did get lighter, then we're going to say it's not real leprosy and the clothes are not contaminated. You don't have to burn the whole clothes, just that section. We'll see, I believe we'll see that in a moment. But I just need to bring out one thing that Rashi adds here. Now, hold on one second. Sorry, guys. Another interesting rule Rashi mentions, that if you remember, we learned something fascinating by the person that we would assume that would for sure make him impure, and we said it doesn't make him impure. Remember? We said that if your whole body is covered with leprosy, you're not impure, although you would assume that you are. Guess what? The same thing goes for clothes, Rashi tells us too. That if the whole clothes had this bright red leprosy color or this bright green leprosy color on it, you would actually still not be tummy. So very interesting, very similar rules to the leprosy that goes on clothes. Even the exceptions applied to clothes are very similar to the magical ailment of leprosy that goes in the body, that if you're completely covered with it, not just are you not more tummy, but you're even less tummy. You're not actually tummy at all. You're not impure at all. Verse 56, continuing right along. But if the kohenik does examination, so Yehuda, you get that furniture, and Yehuda examines your clothes, you bring in your shirt, your undershirt, your socks, whatever it is. And Yehuda looks at it after 7 days of quarantining this original spot because he wants to make sure it's not a marker. He wants to see it grow. But now it got weaker. 7 days later, he sees that the mark, the red or the green mark is getting weaker. After he washed it, so Yehuda has a washing machine and get that furniture store. He has a washing machine, although he doesn't sell appliances, but he gets a washing machine in his furniture store. And then he washes it, the clothes, and it got weaker. It's not so green anymore. It's not so red anymore. So what does Yehuda do? Yehuda will rip out from the clothes that lesion, that spot, or if maybe you had a fancy leather coat, so it's on a leather, or from the warp or the woof, which is the threads going different directions. He'll just rip that out, and that's it. And if it appears again after you, so Yehuda will rip it out, and then he'll watch the garment carefully. and he'll see, will it regrow spots after he ripped out that one specific spot? Okay, then you know that there's a major problem here with this clothes, because I ripped out the old spot and it's coming back new spots, and then the clothes is contaminated. The clothes is no good. But what happens if Yehuda then sticks it in the washing machine? He washes the clothes or the leather, whatever kind of garment it is, and it gets weaker and it goes away. He actually gets rid of that bright red or bright green spot that's on the clothes. No problem. Stick the clothes in the mikvah. He goes to the new Chabad mikvah we have, and he sticks the clothes in the mikvah, and you can put back on your sweatpants, your sweatshirt, whatever it is that you brought Yehuda to look at. And then the Torah sums it up. Zois Torah's nega. The last few days you become spiritual experts in the calamity of saras. These are the laws of leprosy. Beged hatzemer, beged pishtim. We discussed whether it doesn't make a difference if it's a woolen garment, and with a nice wool garment, or a linen garment, or your si, or your erev, or whichever way the threads are going, warp or woof, or you call kliar, or leather, latari, latame, to make it pure or impure. And this, my friends, includes most of the laws of leprosy. And you now know a lot of the rules and regulations for how to determine if somebody has leprosy on their clothes or on their body. We're still going to, I believe, discuss more, but now we're going to discuss the correction. So the guy, what does Yehuda do? Yehuda tells the guy, get out of the community. You must leave. Go to away from the Beis Hamikdash. Go even away from the Levite camp, and even go away from the Jewish camp. You need to move away, we said, because you are causing friction among the Jewish people. You're causing a disaster among the Jewish people. You're making gossiping and ego, and you're causing friction and division. And now you have to suffer the consequences of your action. The punishment is the same thing you have been doing to others. You must leave and be alone. You must quarantine. You must go by yourself. But now the guy goes by himself. Finally, 2 days later, a week later, a month later, however long the Torah stays on him, and he's all alone, and he's telling people, stay away from me, don't go near me. It's contagious. We said even yesterday, we saw in the Gemara that it's contagious. You must stay away from this guy. He's literally all alone. What an interesting way of being in jail. You're locking yourself up. And now it goes away. Now he's pure. So what do we do now? So that's it. He just can come back in, and that's where today's Chumash takes us. These are the Torah, the laws of the person with leprosy, on the day he becomes pure. You bring the guy to the Kohen. The guy comes out of his, he's all alone, wherever he is. We discussed him. He might be allowed to hang out with other people with leprosy, but now he could come back to the Jewish people. They take him back. They bring him to the border, I believe, of the Jewish camp. Okay, and the Kohen meets him there. He comes there. He says, "Please bring the Kohen. Bring your. I had to be excommunicated. I had to go away. Bring Yehuda back." And Yehuda takes a bus, takes the New Jersey Transit, and goes to the border of wherever the camp is. Because the guy can't come in. We don't know that he's pure yet. We have to do. Yehuda has to do an inspection. So Yehuda goes, and the Kohen sees the guy being nearby. He says, "Looks to all the places where the spots might be. It's not there anymore. Gone. Disappeared. The leprosy left him. The lesion of Taras has gone away, and it's not there anymore. So what do we do?" The Tziva Kohen says something very interesting. He says, here's the concoction. This is the unique recipe concoction that needs to be made in order to cure this guy. They take for the guy who wants to be pure. Two birds. Chayos. Okay, 2 birds that are healthy, not sick. Sublushita and Sahargit birds. You take 2 birds that are healthy birds. Tahiris that are pure, right? I believe they also have to be not non-kosher birds. Any bird you want, I guess. It seems like it's okay. It got to be birds. It has to be birds. Whatever kosher bird you want, and not beat up, not unhealthy birds. 2 healthy birds. And and then go to the trees and get a branch of cedar wood tree. To make this concoction, we need a branch of a cedar wood tree. It sounds like in Harry Potter, making the potions over there, where they make the magical potions. Ushni soy lahavdil, not to compare, but they're making a potion. Ushne soy las, and I want you to add over there a strip of wool that's in the color of crimson. right? So now you need also a strip of wool in the concoction, the azov, and a bunch of grass, a collection of grass. Very interesting. So again, let's go over the recipe. You need birds, 2 birds. You need, well, they should be healthy and not sick birds. That makes sense, kosher birds. You need a stick of cedar tree. You need a strip of wool, and you need a grass. And Rashi says, what's going on over here? Not always does Rashi explain the sacrifice and these things. Rashi explains exactly why we need this potion. And he says, why birds? What do birds do? It's actually very beautiful. This morning, or yesterday morning, my son's window was open. And if you guys sleep at the open night, you hear the birds chirping in the morning. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. But what do birds do? They chirp, 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 chirp. Right? What do the fegalach do? They sit and yap, yap, yap a whole day. They're chirping. So birds are specifically chosen because they talk too much. So a person, it's not about talking too much. It's representing the problem that we're chit-chatting and talking about other people. That is why birds are born. Very interesting. We're bringing birds because birds talk. This guy went and created so division among the Jewish people by talking about other people. He was acting like a bird. So to remind him of his sin, we bring birds. Why a cedar tree? Oh, good question. Happy you asked. Because a cedar tree is the biggest, one of the biggest, largest trees that there are. And this guy was acting like a haughty, ego, self-centered, big shot macher. And that's also another reason for leprosy. It's going to bring you down. You know, leprosy, you break out with leprosy, that'll humble you very quickly when you break out with leprosy from your ego. So he takes the birds and he takes the cedar tree, Rashi says. And what does he do? What else does he take? He takes a piece of wool, a little piece of wool, and some grasses. And the message here is, and the word for wool in Hebrew, interestingly, is soilas. Soilas means a worm. So the wool represents a worm. I guess you're not going to take a worm. So you take a wool that has the same name as a worm. And we're telling you, Mr. Ego, lower your ego. It's all about ego. It's all about gossiping. Get off your high horse and lower yourself from the cedar tree to a grass, from a chit-chatting bird to a worm, to know that this is important in life. It's a good humility. It's a good dose of humility that the person would get when he is ego and sowing division among the Jewish people. Very interesting concoction, a potion made in order to do this. And the Kohen will command, what do you do with this, all these items? The shachat, the satzipar, ha'aches, you slaughter, you do the ritual slaughter of one bird, a kli chares, and you pour it in. Now you have a vessel there, a pot, a vessel made out of earthenware, al mayim chayim, and you put in spring water, right? Fresh. You know, we always learn spring water is a high level of holiness. It's connected to the earth. And you put the blood of the bird that you did the ritual slaughter to in the water. So now your water turned red. You could see the blood in the water, in the spring water. It had a revius, you know, like a cup of water, and you had some blood, bird blood inside it. And then you take the live bird, Vesa 8, you take the live bird together with the stick, the cedar stick, Vesa 8, the cedar tree, and then you take the wool, the piece of wool, crimson wool, Vesa Ezev, and the grass with Tovel, you dip them into the spring water blood concoction, Vesa Tzipar Achaya Bedam, Hatzipar, and you take with the bird and you dip it into the blood of the bird who was ritually slaughtered, and then what do? Now you don't do it together. The bird doesn't get tied together with those things. But the other stuff is the wood, the cedar wood, and the wool and the thing that's tied together. The bird you do separately. You dip, I guess, the bird separately into the thing. And after you get the blood, the water and blood together, you sprinkle it on the guy who's coming pure. Menat saras from leprosy. Shavapam is 7 times. You take it, you sprinkle it 7 times. He's pure, and the live bird, you send it away into the open field, go away, and you let the other bird go. And then he washes his clothes. That's called the gilach es kol sa'arei. He shaves. He does a real shaving job. He shaves off all his hair. And he goes to the mikvah. Right, he goes to the Chabad and the mikvah. He goes to the spring, the lake there, and he's pure. And then he could come to the camp. And he sits 7 days. But he still should remain outside his tent, interestingly, for 7 days. What does that mean? He sits outside. He takes a chair and goes reclining there. Rashi says no. It means that he cannot have intimacy with his wife. So he probably couldn't have before the whole time. He had to be separated from all people. Even when he gets back home, he still has to be separated from his wife for 7 days. Maybe a meshvi, and then on the 7th day again, he does another shave. He goes back to the barber. We get Yigalach as kol sari. Here, the Jewish tradition is to shave off his head. Remember, until now, we said when he first got leprosy, he has to grow his hair long. Now he's having the opposite experience. He's shaving it all off. As Roshai, as Kanai, his head, like some people in our class over here, but he also shaves off the beard. Oh my gosh, he shaves off his eyebrows. That's called Sari Galech. All his hair he shaves off. He washes his clothes. He goes to the mikvah, and he shaves off other areas of hair too on the body. Any place that has hair that grows together. Doesn't mean you have to shave off your hand here, I don't think. But where there's a bunch of hair together, shaves it all off. And then after the 8th day, another sacrifice, not birds anymore. It takes 2 sheep. He takes 2 unblemished male lambs and 1 unblemished a female lamb. And he takes 3 measurements of flour, fine flour, belula, mincha, b'shemen, with oil. You know, we always put the oil in the front of the mikvah. And 1 log, I think we said it was like, I forget how much, a certain amount of oil that's going together as a sacrifice. The Kohen will take the guy who's becoming pure with these all the sacrifices he has there at the door to the tent of meeting, at the door of the Nicanor gate door, not in the courtyard itself, but in the outer door, I believe it is. He takes 1 sheep, and he brings 1 sheep as a sin offering, asham offering, the guilt offering, and also with the oil that he had, the bottle of oil, and he waves them as you always talk about waving. You wave it in front of Hashem. Okay, I didn't prepare this before, so I'm just going to wing it here. And he slaughters also the sin, the sheep in the same place you sleep usually the sin offerings, and the burnt offering. It's always in the north corner, the north wall of the temple. It's the level of high sanctity of the sacrifices in the temple. We're almost done. And the Kohen takes the blood from the guilt offering. Interestingly, he sticks it in his ear, in his right ear, and on his right hand thumb, and his toe, big toe thumb. Interesting, another place similar to another case which we learned. You sprinkle the blood in the kohen, but by leprosy you do that on his big thumb, and his big toe, and his ear. Kohen shall take some of the oil and pour it onto the kohen's left palm. Sprinkles it 7 times before Hashem. We'll finish. You know what? We'll do this tomorrow. I don't want to rush it. I don't want to jump. But that's it for today's Chumash. We'll continue with Hashem's help the Chumash tomorrow together. Now we'll go on to today's Tanya. Any questions or comments on what we learned so far in the interesting Chumash? Yes, Ira.
I know where you said that if they have saras all over the body, then they don't have saras, correct?
They're not impure.
Right. That's similar to, like, I think it was a Beit Din where if everyone voted someone guilty, they're not guilty.
It's a very interesting rule, correct. So if you don't find one guy in the court that has some defense, some excuse, then it's not a good court. Then we cancel out the court, cancel culture, you're not good. If there's nobody here who could find something good to say about him, then this is not okay. There is basically, we don't believe anybody's rotten through and through. Nobody's that bad. You know what I mean? There's nobody that's that. It's a very interesting rule. So when you have the court, it's amazing. If there's if this guy is such a criminal that you can't find anything in defense, then that we don't say he's now for sure guilty. You're guilty for not being able to find anything that's good about the person. A very interesting rule we have. And the same with impurity. There's nobody that's 100% pure. There is no person. It's a beautiful idea. There's nobody in life that's 100% bad. I heard that Bernie Madoff passed away in jail today, right? Did you see that? I think did I see correctly? Just now, literally, as I was walking in. Dave, is that true? So I know people.
It is. Yes,
what? It's true.
It's true.
So I know people say there, even God's, it's hard for people will kill me for saying that. Even something like that, there's good. There cannot be a person that doesn't have good in life. Just all of a sudden, is whatever.
Hard to believe it with him.
But that's I picked that as an example. I'm saying that we don't believe that a person is 100% bad. Nobody is 100% bad. That's an example of many people.
As close as it gets.
As close as it gets. Closest it gets to perfectly impure. Okay.
At 99.9%, the fact that it's
still, you cannot be 100% saras. There has to be something, some good inside the thing.
Yeah, it's one of those.
By the way, when people do bad things, that doesn't take away from the good that they do, right? So in other words, you could be they still do good things. They in other words, you could be terrible here, but good in somewhere else. Not be perfectly impure in every part.
Was he Robin Hood? Robin Hood? Was he Robin Hood?
Right. No, I'm not saying he was. I'm not saying he's a tzaddik at all, but I'm saying when you have leprosy 100%, you got to look again. You got to find. You got to dig. You got to dig and dig and dig. Somewhere deep down there's got to be something good. Nobody's born bad. That's the example I like to use. When Hashem creates us, we're good. We get bad, but there always will be that birth which you had, which you were when you were a little kid, when you're 1 day old in the hospital being born. You're not a bad person. Hashem makes us, and then the problem is maybe things happen, trauma, or maybe you have challenges, you have biological challenges, whatever it is. You have a lot of challenges, but you could become very bad. But you always have that starting point, which is pure. I don't know. Might be hard to believe in some people, but they say it's true. Okay. All right. Very good. Any questions before I start? Interesting Tanya. Okay, let's move on to today's Tanya.